Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. In continuity with the previous videos on clinical side, this is the second part of cardiovascular system auscultation. We'll be discussing today on a murmur. All my video lectures are for educative purpose. They will be very useful to fourth year student. Even it will be useful to second year and third year students. Mainly it will be more useful in your everyday practice as well as in your oral exams, and some of the thing may be asked in your theory also. So we'll begin with what we call as a murmur. As these are produced by different valves, whenever there is a valvular defects, either stenosis or incompetence or combination of both, there is turbulence of the blood flow which produces a sound. We call that as a murmur. Also, apart from valvular structure, it can be produced at the congenital defect like ASD, VSD and PD. So we'll be discussing all those aspects in brief. So we'll be talking on what we call as heart murmurs. So murmur are extra, means it is not normally present. It is always abnormal. And it is unexpected sound which is produced because of flow of a blood through the valvular structure, or we can call along with valvular structures or congenital defects. Whenever you get this blood flow through these valvular structures which are defective, maybe stenotic or maybe regurgitation, it will produce a turbulence of a blood flow, and that turbulence of the blood flow will produce a sound, and that sound we call as a murmur. So it is an abnormal sound which is due to turbulence of a blood flow across the valvular structure or across the congenital defects like atrial septal defect, ventricular septal defect or patent ductus arteriosus. These are the three common congenital defects. Or narrowed valve, that is stenosis. The valve which does not close completely we call as an incompetence or we call regurgitation. So this will be the definition or introductory part of murmur. So murmur will be pathophysiology. If you see, it is a restricted forward flow through a stenotic valve. So if there is a stenotic valve and if the blood has to flow through that, it will produce turbulence. Or in a regurgitant valve, when the blood is getting regurgitated, it will produce a turbulence or abnormal opening like VSD, ASD or maybe a PD, any one of those. So in those conditions also you will have a turbulence of the blood flow, and because of that turbulence of the blood flow you will get a sound, and that sound we call as a murmur. So turbulence is because of high flow velocity, small diameter we call as a stenosis, or low kinetic viscosity. These are all the mechanism, and it produces different types of turbulence like jet impact, cavitation impact, vortex shedding, eddy formation, filter, periodic wake, etc. And all those together, we don't go into detail of any one of this, and that will produce murmur. Always remember, if there is a stenosis or if there is a low kinetic viscosity, regurgitant blood flow, or there is a high blood flow velocity, that will produce turbulence, and because of turbulence you will get a murmur. That is more than enough. We divide basically into two groups. One we say pathological, means there is some defect in the valvular structures, or there is a defect, congenital defects, or it may be after a repair, etc. While the second big group we call as a benign group. So first I'll have a little word regarding a benign group. Benign group means structurally heart is absolutely normal. Valvular structures are normal and there are no congenital defects. And if the murmur is produced because of a blood flow across a normal valve, We call that as a benign, or it is also utilized as functional murmur, or some people utilize the word flow murmur, or they use the word hyperdynamic murmur, or innocent murmur, or non-pathological murmur. So these are all the words which are being utilized. Out of this, the most common word which is being utilized is innocent murmur, or what we call as a functional murmur. These are the two most common words which are being utilized. By and large, we call it as a functional murmur, or we call it as an innocent murmur. And these murmurs are produced because of a hyperdynamic circulation. Increased quantity of a blood is flowing through a normal valve, and for that normal valve, the quantity of a blood which is flowing through that valve is more. Like in case of anemia, blood volume is increased. Thyrotoxicosis, pregnancy, high grade fever, beriberi, Paget disease, AV fistula, in neonates, in young adults, etc. There is little increase in the blood volume, particularly in case of anemia, thyrotoxicosis, pregnancy, beriberi. In all these conditions, the blood volume is more, and whenever that large quantity of a blood is flowing through a normal valve, it appears like stenosis. So it will produce a systolic murmur, and which is very common at the level of pulmonary valve. So usually we get a soft systolic murmur, which is mainly mid systolic at the level of pulmonary valve, and it is due to anemia, thyrotoxicosis, pregnancy, beriberi, Paget disease, AV fistula, etc. And this we call as a functional murmur or innocent murmur. You can use a flow murmur, hyperdynamic, non-pathological, or benign. Now we come to mainly one variety which we call as a pathological murmur, which is because of the defect in the valvular structure like mitral valve, stenosis, MS, MR, regurgitation, aortic stenosis, aortic regurgitation, ASAR. The commonest valvular disease as far as the pulmonary valve is concerned is pulmonary stenosis, and as far as the tricuspid valve is concerned, TSTR. So in all these conditions, you can get a murmur production because of a flow of a blood across that defective valve will produce a turbulence. While in case of ASD, VSD, and PDA, it is because of the increased blood flow across a defect in the cardiovascular system. We call congenital defects. And depending upon the clinical picture, it is labeled as acyanotic or cyanotic group of disorders. We don't go into detail at present. And sometimes, whenever the surgical repair of a congenital heart defects are done, it may remain partially defective. And in that condition also, or following a valvular replacement, the valve becomes defective. The replaced valve is defective, and that can also produce a murmur. So this will be all the different conditions which can produce a murmur. So understand, we divide into two big groups, pathological and we call as a functional murmur. Functional murmur requires the treatment of the basic etiology, that is anemia, thyrotoxicosis. As soon as the pregnancy gets over, the murmur will disappear because the blood volume will become normal. So you have to treat the basic cause. There is no defect in the heart, that is valvular structures, or there is no defect as congenital defects. So innocent murmur are called flow, benign, non-pathological, functional, or physiological, or inorganic. Any one of those words which are being utilized. And it is very commonly seen in neonates, almost 77% of the time, 66% of the children, and can increase up to 90% with exercise. And you can identify much better by doing a phonocardiography. There is a little difference in a word what we use. There is another word we commonly use is a flow murmur. So whenever you use a blood flow murmur, meaning due to increased blood flow, and this increased blood flow is because of congenital heart disease or because of valvular defects, this produces increased blood flow across a normal valve, and that is good number of times described as a flow murmur. Again, it is not a pathological murmur. But here the word utilized is a flow murmur. An example if I give, say in a case of an atrial septal defect, because of atrial septal defect there is a large quantity of blood coming from LA into RA, and when this blood from RA goes to RV across the tricuspid valve, it can produce a murmur because there is an increased quantity of a blood. So the volume of the blood is more in a RA, and same quantity from RV when it flows into pulmonary artery across the pulmonary valve, it can produce a murmur. We commonly use the word flow murmur, but pulmonary valve is normal, tricuspid valve is normal. A simple example. So do understand that. Why? If there is a defect in the valvular structures like stenosis or regurgitation, or if there is a defect in a what we call as a wall, that is atrial septum or ventricular septum, we call ASD or VSD, or there is an abnormal communication like patent ductus arteriosus. Through this there is an increased blood flow, and that produces turbulence, and secondary to turbulence you get a murmur. This is because of a pathological condition or some defect, and it is produced at the site of defect. It is called pathological murmur. Now we always use a 4 standard area for auscultation of murmur. Aortic area is a right second intercostal space. Pulmonary area is a left second intercostal space. Mitral area is the apex area, and left sternal border, particularly the fourth intercostal space, is tricuspid area, and third and fourth intercostal space on the left side is called as the Erb's area. So these are the 5 standard area where we auscultate, and we always start from say mitral, then we go to the tricuspid, aortic, pulmonary, and then Erb's, or from mitral you go to the pulmonary, aortic, tricuspid, and then Erb's, whichever way you follow, but all 5 areas should be auscultated. And after finishing that you go for the additional area that will be mentioning further. At this stage we auscultate below the clavicle, we call it the infraclavicular region on left side as well as right side. We also auscultate over the carotid artery to auscultate for the bruit. We also auscultate in a parasternal region on the right side and left side. This is very important in a case of a ventricular septal defect. Or you can auscultate over the area where you are suspecting the narrowing of the blood vessels, like coarctation of aorta, or over the femoral artery in case of aortic regurgitation to identify de Rousse's murmur, and pistol short femoral. Over the narrowed carotid artery you want to auscultate for a bruit, etc. These are some of the important things where you are going to auscultate, and we look for a sound over the valvular structures and over the precordial region, we call that as a murmur. Over the blood vessel we call that as a bruit, which is produced because of the turbulence of the blood flow across the narrowed portion of a blood vessel, that is artery. Now whenever we utilize the stethoscope we call as an indirect auscultation. Direct auscultation is extremely difficult and usually it is not done. And we have mentioned this 5 standard area: aortic area, pulmonary area, Erb's area, tricuspid, and mitral area. You can start at any one. Usually we always start at the mitral area, then you can go to tricuspid, Erb's, pulmonary, and aortic, whichever way, but auscultate all the 5 area. Now whenever you are auscultating, auscultate first in a supine posture. If you are not able to identify the heart sounds or murmur very clearly, ask the person to turn to the left lateral position and auscultate. And still you are not able to identify very clearly, ask the person to sit and lean forward and then auscultate. By and large, supine posture is adequate enough, but when it is difficult to auscultate, you can make a left lateral position, and then if it is still difficult, sitting posture and little leaning forward. and then you can auscultate in mitral area, pulmonary area, aortic area, tricuspid area, and Ubbs area, whichever way you want to go. So you auscultate in all those 5 areas. Apart from that, we have already told you that you auscultate in a supine posture, you auscultate in a left lateral decubitus position, sitting posture and leaning forward, and then we do a little maneuver we call as a deep inspiration and expiration, because some murmur will change with inspiration and expiration, particularly if the murmur is on the right side. We call as a murmur of tricuspid and pulmonary valve will change with respiration, that is inspiration and expiration. Also they will change with other maneuver like we call squatting, Valsalva maneuver, hand grip methods, etc. So right side murmur will have alteration in that. If it is difficult to identify whether it is a right side or a left side, you can utilize this maneuver. We'll be mentioning at the end of this lecture regarding those things. Now whenever you hear a sound other than first heart sound, second heart sound, third heart sound, fourth heart sound, opening snap, opening click, pericardial knock, etc., which are little sharp sounds. And apart from this, if you hear a turbulent sound, we call that as a murmur. And in that murmur, we mention timings, shape, site. By and large, the site should be always mentioned first. So site should be mentioned always first. Then we try to mention related to ventricular period, either systolic or diastolic. And again, if you can identify whether it is early systolic, mid systolic, late systolic, which part of systole, which part of diastole, that should be mentioned. And then we try to mention the shape, and depending upon whether it is increasing, decreasing, we call crescendo, decrescendo. If both are there, crescendo followed by decrescendo, we call diamond shaped murmur. If it is the same intensity, we call it a hollow murmur, etc. We'll be using all those words. We'll be explaining you again. So that will be regarding the shape. Then whether it is heard only in a local area, then we call localized. If it is heard in a very wide area, we call radiation. If it is heard in only single direction, it is best heard in one area and then it is selectively heard only in one direction, we call conducted. Then we try to mention regarding how loud it is, that is intensity. And depending upon that intensity, we classify into different class, that is class 1, class 2, or grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, etc. And then depending upon the character, we call high pitch, low pitch, medium pitch, any specific character if you can describe. And then we call as a quality of the sound, etc., if you can describe. These are not of much importance, but theoretical they can ask you, or any other characteristics. So ideally we should give a description of a murmur in all this. First is site, followed by timing, shape, radiation, conduction, whether there is any radiation or conduction or localized. Then intensity, any particular specific character if you can identify regarding pitch, any specific quality or any other characteristics. Some people mentions also at the end any change with respiration, any change with position, any change with Valsalva maneuver or squatting posture or with hand grip methods, etc. And it is best heard with bell or with diaphragm. This ideally you should mention. If you know it well, the reasons why, then only mention in your oral exam. It is mainly for an MD purpose. So, but if you know it, you can mention. Now first we go to the location. Suppose the murmur is best heard in an aortic area. It may be heard in a surrounding area. We call as a aortic murmur. Murmur is best heard in a mitral area. We'll label that as a mitral murmur. It may be heard in surrounding area. So where it is maximum intensity, that is the site where it is the best heard. And accordingly we mention aortic murmur, pulmonary murmur, tricuspid murmur, mitral murmur, etc. Then we try to identify whether systolic or diastolic. Now very interesting thing. If you want to identify, you can concentrate without correlating with a pulse. Very difficult. If you can identify the first heart sound and second heart sound clearly, then you will be able to say if the murmur is between first heart sound and second heart sound, that is between lub and dub, we'll call that as a systolic. And if it is between dub and lub, we'll call that as a diastolic. So one cardiac cycle consists of the first heart sound, second heart sound, followed by again a first heart sound. The gap between the first heart sound and second heart sound is short. So systolic is always short. Diastolic is longer. Beginning of systole is with lub. End of systole is with dub. Beginning of diastole is with dub. End is with lub. If you can't identify this way, best is put your finger on pulse, either radial or carotid, or you can also utilize femoral. Now if it comes with pulse, it has to be systolic. If it comes after pulse, it has to be diastolic. And if the murmur is heard in both the phases, we call that as a continuous murmur. So if a person gets a murmur in systolic period, we call systolic murmur. If the person gets a murmur in diastolic period, we call it a diastolic murmur. And if there is a murmur which is heard in both phases, systolic as well as diastolic, we call that as a continuous murmur. As we bypass, we'll be mentioning in detail regarding what are the different types of systolic phases, diastolic, continuous, and other. We'll be including all those as we go. This is just introduction. Now, in a diagram, I'll show you if the murmur is increasing in intensity, we call crescendo murmur. If the murmur is decreasing in intensity, we call decrescendo murmur. Now, if it starts with a murmur and it is becoming loud and then again it is becoming soft, we call crescendo decrescendo. If it is of the same intensity all throughout, we call it a plateau or we call it a hollow murmur. These are the common words which are utilized as far as the shape is concerned. So these are the three most important things which ideally we should be able to identify. But if you cannot identify, don't worry. Best way to identify all these things is by echo with Doppler. Then we look at the murmur where it is heard. So to explain radiation and conduction, now suppose murmur, I give one example. Murmur is best heard in a mitral area. Say it is a murmur of mitral regurgitation. Murmur is best heard in a mitral area, very loud enough. And then it is heard all along from mitral area to axillary area, only in that direction, only one direction. Then we'll use the word conduction. So we'll mention murmur is best heard in a mitral area and it is conducted to axilla. Or say I give another example. Murmur is best heard in a aortic area. And as the murmur is best heard in an aortic area, we'll call that as an aortic murmur. And then it is also heard from aortic area towards the both carotid. So we'll say that murmur is best heard in aortic area and it is conducted to both carotid. Same murmur, same intensity, it is heard in that direction. So we'll call that as a conduction. Say I give one another example. A murmur of VSD. It is a very loud murmur. It is usually heard in parasternal region on the right side as well as left side. It is the loudest murmur. It is heard in all direction, whether right, left, up, down, in a very large area. So from that parasternal region, equidistance, whether on the right, whether on the left, whether superior or inferior, the murmur is heard of the same intensity. We'll call that as a radiation. These are the two common words which are being utilized, radiation and conduction. If there is no radiation, if there is no conduction, we'll mention that the murmur is localized. Say classical example, mitral stenosis murmur is a localized murmur heard only in mitral area. It is not heard in pulmonary, not heard in aortic, not heard in tricuspid, not conducted, not radiation. So we will mention that as localized murmur. Now depending upon the loudness, it is divided into 6 grades. I'll just explain here. Grade 1 it is very difficult to identify. An expert will say that yes, there is a faint murmur. By and large, it is identified by a echo Doppler, echo with Doppler. And for good number of time, person will say that feel there is a murmur. So that is grade 1. Grade 2, by and large, it is easily identifiable. And it is a quiet but heard immediately. It is not very loud. You can hear that murmur. And it is not associated with any thrill. Means that murmur is not palpable. Grade 3, it is easily audible, but there is no thrill. Now, if there is a murmur is loud enough and there is a thrill, now we call that as a grade 4. And if it is heard with a stethoscope partly away from the chest, means if I put my palm over the chest and over the palm I put a stethoscope and then I auscultate, we'll call that is grade 5. And extremely to label that grade 6 means you don't require a stethoscope, it is absolutely odd. But murmur will be so loud that it will be heard in a very distant area. Say, to give an example, in a case of a VSD, if the murmur is heard also in a suprasternal notch, it is heard even over the posteriorly, it is heard even downwards, right up to say even in abdomen, in a very wide area, usually we label that as a grade 6. Now, from grade 4 onwards, that is grade 4, 5 and 6, it is invariably associated with thrill, that is palpable murmur. We label that as grade 4, 5 and 6. And grade 3 is adequately loud enough, but there is no palpable thrill. We'll mention that as grade 3. So difference between grade 3 and 4 is 3 is without thrill, 4 is with thrill. And grade 4, 5 and 6 are always associated with thrill, while 1, 2 and 3 there is no palpable thrill. So palpable thrill becomes a very easy way to differentiate between 1, 2 and 3 grade from 4, 5 and 6. Then regarding timing, shape, location, already we have mentioned this, sorry. Then we mentioned regarding a pitch, if you can identify high pitch, medium pitch, low pitch, etc. And if you can identify a quality, like someone will say it is a musical murmur, someone will say it is a rumbling murmur, it is a harsh murmur, it is a machinery murmur, it is a blowing murmur, depending upon what way you can give a description. If you are not sure, don't mention any particular characteristic or any quality of those particular. Don't mention regarding a pitch, don't mention regarding a quality if you are not expert in a sound identification. As far as I already mentioned, if a person is taking a very deep inspiration, expiration, right side murmur, that is a murmur of tricuspid valve and pulmonary valve, will change. Usually these are more affected as compared to left side. Even with the change of position, that is supine posture, sitting posture, squatting posture, etc., will also make more change with the right side murmur as compared to left side murmur. And particularly Valsalva maneuver, that is blowing, whistling, straining, squatting posture, will make more change again in a right side murmur as compared to left side murmur. So always remember, it is very, very helpful to differentiate between a right side murmur and left side murmur. Now, a standard thing, we go with each and we are mentioning. As far as location is concerned, if murmur is best heard in an aortic area, it has to be a aortic murmur. Maybe aortic stenosis or maybe aortic regurgitation. At present, we are not discussing regarding this systolic or diastolic. We'll be mentioning separately. If it is best heard in pulmonary area, that is left second intercostal space, it has to be PS or PR. Obs area, it is more in favor of AR, or we call it the aortic regurgitations. If it is best heard in tricuspid area, TR and TS. If it is best heard in mitral area, it is MR or MS. And if it is best heard in a left infraclavicular region, it is mainly most common in PDA. Occasionally, if it is a pre-ductal stenosis of coarctation, then it may be a murmur may be heard in a left infraclavicular region. Now, as far as the period is concerned or timing is concerned, we do mention regarding timings in relation to systolic or diastolic. Whenever there is a ejection of a blood through that valve, valvular structure, we'll always call that as a systolic murmur. Means across the aortic valve and pulmonary valve, the murmur, if it is produced, will be systolic murmur, and that systolic murmur will be very common in case of a stenosis. So aortic stenosis, pulmonary stenosis. While in a regurgitation, the blood will regurgitate back into LV and RV in case of AR, aortic regurgitation, and PR. That will be a diastolic murmur because regurgitation will occur in a diastole across the aortic valve and pulmonary valve, while across the tricuspid and mitral valve. Systole is during systole, you will get regurgitation of blood from RV into RA and from LV into LA, and that will be because of regurgitation. So MR and TR will be systolic murmur, while in stenosis it is the end of diastole or during a diastolic period, the blood will flow across the mitral valve and tricuspid valve. So because of stenosis, it will produce a diastolic murmur. So you have to remember in which phase the blood will flow across that valve. So that will help you to identify whether it will be a diastolic murmur or systolic murmur. So you should know a cardiac cycle, and that we have already done at the beginning of this particular chapter. So location of murmur I have already mentioned. In aortic area it will be aortic stenosis and aortic regurgitation. In a pulmonary area, pulmonary stenosis, pulmonary regurgitation. In ARBS area it is very commonly because of aortic regurgitation. In mitral area, MSMR. In tricuspid area, TSTR. And on the right side as well as the left side parasternal region, it will be ventricular septal defect. And if you get a murmur in what we call as a tricuspid area, it will maybe because of tricuspid stenosis. If you hear the murmur in a left infraclavicular region, it will be a patent ductus arteriosus, and occasionally in case of what we call as a coarctation of aorta. So this will be the location of the murmur sites. I am not going into very detail. Already we have mentioned that MS murmur will be well localized. So MS murmur doesn't get conducted or radiated, while MR murmur will be selectively conducted to axilla. Aortic stenosis murmur will be conducted to both carotid, means right as well as left. While in case of a pulmonary stenosis, the murmur from left side, that is pulmonary area, it will be selectively conducted to left carotid. So that is a characteristic of a pulmonary stenotic murmur. In both this condition, it will be a ejection systolic murmur. In MR, again it will be a ejection systolic murmur. In a case of a mitral stenosis, it will be a diastolic murmur. And usually we say that the grade 5 and grade 6 murmur will be radiated. Classical example of this will be what we call as ventricular septal defect. That murmur will be widely radiated, means it will be heard in a very wide area surrounding parasternal region, equidistance on both the sides, and that we call as a radiation. So this is regarding conduction and radiation. Site, conduction, radiation, and timings. Now, this is a diagram which is very selectively given. If it is conducted from area 2, area 2 is aortic regurgitation. That is, murmur will be conducted to, heard in only this direction, from aortic area towards the ARBS area. That will be selectively in case of aortic regurgitation. In aortic stenosis, it will be conducted from aortic area towards the right carotid, more prominent as compared to left, but it is conducted to both. While in case of a pulmonary stenosis, it will be selectively conducted to left carotid. So in a case of this, it will be selectively conducted to left carotid. While from 6, that is In case of what we call as a mitral regurgitation, the murmur will be conducted to axilla. Murmur will be conducted to axilla, more common, rather than conducted towards what we call as a Erb's area. This will be more conduction. So this will be MR murmur. Patent ductus arteriosus murmur will be best heard in infraclavicular region. In infraclavicular region, it will be best heard here in infraclavicular region. And murmur of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy will be best heard in a left side parasternal region, and may radiate to the back, base of the neck. It may radiate. So remember of few conditions: aortic stenosis, pulmonary stenosis, mitral regurgitation. These three will be more important. Remember that. So that will be regarding a radiation and conduction. Okay. Then now we divide into three groups. That is timing wise: systolic, diastolic, continuous. Classical example of continuous is patent ductus arteriosus. Remember only one: patent ductus arteriosus. Classical example, right? While systolic murmur, as far as we call as a aortic and pulmonary valve is concerned, ASPS. As far as we call AV valve is concerned, that is MRTR, mitral regurgitation, tricuspid regurgitation. Forget about all these other. Don't try to remember other, but try to remember these four common conditions. If they ask you anything more, any other, then you can mention mitral valve prolapse, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, then ASD, VSD. Diastolic murmur, in case of a, we call as a AV valve, atrioventricular valve, that is MSTS. As far as a semilunar valve is concerned, ARPR. And very, very rare to get a diastolic murmur will be because of what we call as a left atrial myxoma and caught triatrium. Don't try to mention those conditions. Don't try to mention. Even I am not mentioning regarding acute rheumatic fever, which we call as a Carey-Scum murmur. Forget about that. If you remember, then only mention those. They are all for what we call as a MD level. So don't try to remember even this way. Manomex, that is PAS. Pulmonary and aortic stenosis are systolic. Pulmonary and aortic valve incompetence are diastolic. Don't try to remember this. It is better which phase of the cardiac cycle the blood will flow. That is a better way. And as far as the mitral valve and tricuspid valve is concerned, it is just opposite of that. Forget about all those. So now we go to the timing wise. Further classified systolic. Say I'll explain a very simple way. If this diagram is, so if it is heard in both the phases, that is systolic period as well as diastolic, means from the first heart sound to the second heart sound, and also from second heart sound to the first heart sound, we'll label that as continuous. And classical example of this PDA only. Don't utter any other word. Patent ductus arteriosus. Classical continuous murmur. Now say if it is between first heart sound and second heart sound. If it is right from beginning of the first heart sound, heard till second heart sound, we label that as a pansystolic. If it is from the beginning of the first heart sound, we have got a diagram, we'll show you that. If it is from the beginning of the first heart sound and ends in a mid part of systole, we call ejection systolic. And if it is in the late part of systole, we call as a late systolic. So different words are being utilized. We'll be showing you that particular and we'll be mentioning one or two conditions. Pansystolic classical is MRTR. And also you can get in a case of a ventricular septal defect. So these three conditions will be a classical example of a pansystolic murmur. And in all these three conditions, it is usually a loud murmur of nearly grade 4. Very common. So if you get a loud murmur and systolic murmur over a mitral area, most common it is mitral regurgitation. In tricuspid area, tricuspid regurgitation. In a parasternal region, VSD. Right? If you hear in an early part of systole, we call as a ejection systolic murmur. Classical in case of aortic stenosis in aortic area, pulmonary stenosis in a pulmonary area. Forget about ASD and HOCM. Don't try to remember this. I'll be mentioning only these two as a classical example of ejection systolic. While mid-systolic, there are good number of conditions we'll be showing you further. Mid-systolic murmur can be in acute rheumatic fever, we call it a Keriscombe murmur. A flow murmur, in a case of aortic regurgitation, we call as there is one name for that. I forget that name. Austin Flint murmur. Sorry, Austin Flint murmur. So those are mid-systolic murmur. And in case of a mitral valve prolapse, it can be a mid-systolic murmur or a late systolic murmur. In a late part of systole, we call it a late systolic murmur. So these are the different terms which are being utilized. As far as the diastolic is concerned, in a case of aortic and pulmonary regurgitation, it is in the early part of diastole. That's why it is called the early diastolic murmur. Short form we call early diastolic murmur, EDM. And it is a decrescendo murmur, while ejection systolic murmur is a crescendo murmur. And pansystolic murmur is a hollow murmur, or we call as a plateau murmur. It is same, of same intensity. It does not increase, it does not decrease. Diastolic murmur, here when it decreases, we call it a decrescendo murmur. Here it increasing, we call it a crescendo murmur. And when it is of a same intensity, we usually call it a plateau or a hollow. Mid-diastolic murmur is again a plateau murmur in mitral stenosis, tricuspid stenosis, and occasionally, sorry, in case of atrial myxoma. While continuous murmur are usually a same intensity, does not increase or does not decrease. Usually we use a murmur as train in the tunnel or machinery murmur, etc. Those words are being utilized, and they are usually again a plateau murmur. Here we have given that particular name. I'll show you that. Yes, plateau or hollow, right? And if you are getting increasing and decreasing, that is crescendo, decrescendo, all ejection murmurs or ejection systolic murmur are crescendo, decrescendo murmurs. All this is difficult. If you remember, well and good. If you don't remember, don't worry. At least you should be able to identify where it is based on and whether it is systolic, diastolic. And probably if you can identify the grade. If it is with thrill, 4, 5, 6. If it is without thrill, 1, 2, 3. Easily audible, 2 and 3. Difficult to identify, 1. With thrill, 4, 5, 6. Remember that much. And then if you can pick up what we call as conduction or radiation. So systolic murmur, now here we have got some example. Early or ejection systolic murmur, classical in aortic stenosis, pulmonary stenosis. These two are classical, and these are usually ejection systolic, or we call it a early systolic, crescendo, decrescendo murmur. They will be a loud murmur. They are usually of grade 4, and they are conducted to carotids. In aortic stenosis, to both the carotids, right more than left. In pulmonary stenosis, only to the left carotid. Hokum murmur will be best heard in an aortic area. It will be also conducted to the carotids. And depending upon the severity of a narrowing, depending upon the subaortic stenosis, you will have a loudness of the murmur. By and large, it is grade 4. ASD murmur will usually produce a flow murmur at the pulmonary valve, and it is a flow murmur. And that flow murmur may be of grade 3 to grade 4. ASD murmur at the level of atrial septal defect is usually not heard. So, in detail, we'll be discussing again in a chapter of atrial septal defect. A mid-systolic murmur is classical in case of a mitral valve prolapse, which is in the middle part of the systole, and all functional murmurs, or we call innocent murmurs, say because of anemia, thyrotoxicosis, beriberi, pregnancy, etc. All those murmurs are mid-systolic murmur. They are usually a soft murmur of grade 2 or grade 3, never of grade 4. Mitral valve prolapse is also of grade 2 or grade 3. It is never a loud murmur. While ejection systolic murmur are usually a loud murmur, they are of grade 4. A late systolic murmur you can get in a mitral valve products. Again, it is a mild murmur. It is very commonly a hollow murmur. These are all hollow murmur and they are of grade 2 or grade 3. A long systolic murmur, or we call it a pan-systolic murmur. Long systolic murmur starts little after the first heart sound and stops below the second heart sound. We call it a long systolic murmur. And if it covers right from the first heart sound and overlaps first and second heart sound, we call it a pan-systolic murmur. They will be in MR, TR and VSD, classical. So remember, these are all loud sounds. They are always of grade 3, more than grade 4. So grade 4, 5 or 6 may be there in case of MR, TR or VSD. Usually VSD murmur are of grade 5 or grade 6. So remember this particular, this is as far as systole is concerned. So early systolic, mid systolic, late systolic, pan systolic. All those we have given. This is not for your oral exams. If you remember well and good, at least remember one or two examples in each. If they ask you, then only if you are sure, then you utter. If you are not sure, don't try to utter whether it is early systolic, mid systolic or late systolic or pan systolic. Don't try to use those terms. They are mainly for your oral exams. Now one word I'll mention here, that if there is a VSD, it is usually not a long systolic. It is a mid systolic and it is for a very short period. We call that as a Rogers murmur. So do remember that. And we have told you that in a case of pediatric, because of the increased blood flow across the pulmonary valve, that is labeled as a still murmur. So if you remember these words, well and good. And I have told you another thing, in an acute rheumatic fever, you will have a murmur which will be heard over the mitral area because of involvement of the mitral valve. And that particular murmur we call as a Carey-Scum murmur. And in case of an aortic regurgitation, we got a flow murmur across the mitral valve, and that is given a name, Austin Flint murmur. So these are some of the names, if you remember well and good. If it is because of anemia, it is called as a hemic murmur. Some of the labeling. So this is mid systolic, hollow systolic. You can see that intensity is same. This is mid systolic, intensity is nearly same. In a early systolic, usually it is a crescendo decrescendo murmur. In a late systolic, it may be crescendo murmur. So these are all systolic murmur in detail. What are the things? What will be the effect on inspiration, expiration, Valsalva maneuver, squatting, passive leg raising, hand grip, amyl nitrate. Usually this never try to mention. Remember, if you do any particular procedures like inspiration, expiration, Valsalva maneuver, hand grips, etc., right side murmur will relatively increase as compared to left side murmur. Remember those two things, more than enough. More than enough. As far as the diastolic murmur is concerned, early diastolic are usually decrescendo murmur. Mid diastolic murmur are usually a hollow murmur. And late diastolic murmur are crescendo murmur. We don't go into detail. This is early diastolic, classical in AR and PR. Mid diastolic murmur in MS and TS. Late diastolic murmur, again you get in a, I mentioned Austin Flint murmur in aortic regurgitation, classical. In case of a complete heart block, then label this right hand murmur, forget about all those names. And I mentioned, because of involvement of the mitral valve in an acute rheumatic fever, you get a murmur called as a Carey-Scum murmur. Remember mitral stenosis and tricuspid stenosis, more than enough. While early diastolic is AR, aortic regurgitation and pulmonary regurgitation. This Austin Flint murmur is a flow murmur. So basically it is a soft murmur. It is never a loud murmur. So this is a classification which is being done. Don't try to remember at your leisure time. If you are interested, you can go through all these different slides which I have put right from here. These are all the different slides. You can have a pause and you can go through if you are interested. I am repeating again. This is regarding a systolic murmur and effect of different maneuver on a systolic murmur. These are all diastolic murmur. Forget about all those different names and labeling. I'm not going into detail. Graham-Still murmur, then Carey-Scum murmur, then Austin-Flint murmur, etc. Forget about all those. These are all MDM murmur, Austin-Flint murmur. What are the differences? No one is going to ask you. This is for MD general medicines. These are other names like Cabot-Locke murmur, Dock murmur, then K. Hodgkins murmur, Rattan murmur. These are continuous murmur. Classically, you will get in a patent ductus arteriosus, and it is usually labeled as a Gibson murmur. If you remember this name, well and good. If you don't remember, remember patent ductus arteriosus. Then in a case of a memory shuffle, in cervical venous herm, also you can get little continuous murmur. And in a pericardial fixation rub, it is not a murmur, it is a rub. It is a scratchy sound and leathery sound, scraping sound, heard in the systole as well as diastole. It is best heard in a mitral area, or it is best heard in aortic or pulmonary area. And we have already mentioned before that it is better heard by sitting and leaning forward, or in a supine posture when you apply a pressure on the stethoscope. In that condition, it will be a best heard murmur. So those are called as a continuous sounds. So if you get a continuous sound on a precordial region, what are those conditions? If you get on an extra precordial region, what are those conditions? I'm not going into detail. I'll mention only one condition. That continuous sound over the precordial region, the best classical example is a patent ductus arteriosus. And in an extra precordial region, it can be coarctation of aorta. Classical example. In coarctation of aorta. Remember that one condition more than enough. Continuous murmur, these are big list. Remember patent ductus arteriosus, main classical example. And another example is coarctation of aorta. Forget about all the rest. If it is increasing in intensity, crescendo, decreasing in intensity, decrescendo, increasing, decreasing, crescendo, decrescendo, or we call diamond shaped murmur, doesn't change, or we call unchanged, plateau murmur or hollow murmur. That is shape. This is crescendo. This is decrescendo. This is crescendo, decrescendo, or we call diamond shaped murmur. And this is plateau murmur or uniform murmur or hollow murmur. Hollow murmur. Classical example, mitral regurgitation, tricuspid regurgitation. This is ejection systolic murmur. This is late diastolic murmur. This is early diastolic murmur. Just remember those, more than enough. So timing we have already mentioned. This is crescendo, decrescendo. This is a mid diastolic. This is from S1 to S2, so pan-systolic. This is right from second heart sound till first heart sound, pan-diastolic. This is just before the systole, pre-systolic, or we call end diastolic. This is from S1 to S1, continuous murmur. Early part of diastole, pre-diastolic, or early diastolic. These are all the different words which are being utilized. I'll skip all this, forget about all those. Then we call as a quality. If you can identify, they use a different words: quasi, musical, harsh murmur, scratchy murmur, rumbling murmur, grunting murmur, blowing murmur, train in tunnel, then machinery murmur, etc. These are all the different words being utilized. Grade wise, we have already mentioned MR, TR. These two murmur are loud enough. They are usually of a high frequency, while low frequency is usually of MSTS. Stenotic murmur are usually low frequency as far as mitral and tricuspid valve is concerned. As far as those is concerned. And grade wise I have already mentioned that soft murmur will be not associated with thrill. So they are from grade 1 to grade 3. A loud murmur will be associated with thrill. That will be grade 4 to grade 6. So that will be regarding an intensity. Changing with respiration, I have told you that with inspiration, right side murmur will become louder and left side murmur will be louder with expiration. but usually right side murmur will have a more effect as compared to left side murmur. In Valsalva maneuver, usually Hocum murmur will become louder with Valsalva maneuver. Mitral valve prolapse murmur. Mitral valve prolapse murmur will usually be longer and louder with Valsalva maneuver. So, if you are interested, you can remember this and mention in oral exam. In oral exam, don't mention anything regarding a change in the murmur with respiration or with Valsalva or with position change, exercise, hand grip method, etc. Don't try to mention those. So, I'm skipping over all this. These are all for those particular purpose. Mainly again for what we call as cardiology exams or MD exams. This is in detail a chart. If you are interested at your leisure time, you can go through. This is again a same chart showing you all the different maneuver effect on different conditions like pulmonary stenosis, aortic stenosis, MR, VSD, mitral valve prolapse, Hocum, etc. Which murmur will increase or decrease accordingly. Don't try to remember any one of those. Forget about all those conditions. Same thing mentioned here. This is the base chart. So if you are interested, go through your leisure time. Just remember, all this maneuver, right side murmur will increase with more stress and during inspiration, while left side, that is a mitral valve murmur, will increase with expiration. Just remember those, more than enough. Postural changes, squatting posture, left lateral position, Valsalva maneuver, etc., amyl nitrate, all those conditions. These are some of the innocent murmur. Name given: Still's murmur is a flow murmur across the pulmonary valve. There is also another name given to that, pulmonary mid-systolic murmur, peripheral pulmonary systolic murmur. You can have a supraclavicular brachiocephalic systolic murmur, systolic memory shuffle, etc. These are all innocent murmur. Don't try to remember all those names. The name of those murmur, what we call is a innocent murmur. One of the name given is still murmur. Then yes, that is the one main name. Forget about all the rest. We have already told you the innocent murmur may be a continuous murmur like venous hum and continuous memory shuffle. Again, difficult to identify. Don't try to utter in your oral exam. Functional murmur are the murmur which are across the normal valve because of the increased blood flow. We are not going into detail. When we come across the individual congenital heart disease, valvular heart disease, we'll be mentioning how exactly they are produced. So these are all the different flow murmurs which are being produced in different conditions. Don't try to remember at present. There is one word which is being utilized is a changing murmur. In the same area, in different position, if the murmur is changing, say we are auscultating in a mitral area, in supine position it is different. The murmur changes if a person acquires a left lateral position, or if the person sits up and bends forward, the murmur quality and duration also changes. That we call as a changing murmur. One of the classical example of that is Keres-Kumb murmur, or a murmur because of infective endocarditis, a murmur in case of atrial myxoma, or left atrial thrombus. These are the characteristics. We'll be using all those when we discuss regarding these conditions. So, I'm extremely sorry some of the things I've discussed which may not be useful to you, but once in a while, when you do a private practice or someone brings the reports and something is mentioned, you may not get surprised if you know some of these terms, because by and large, after a echocardiography with Doppler, you will be able to identify the murmur much better. So in those conditions, they will be mentioning different characteristics, etc. And if you know these things, you will be able to identify. I think this lecture will be very helpful to you. because in oral exam if it is asked, at least you should be able to identify that murmur is present or not, which area it is best heard, what is the timing, whether it is systolic or diastolic. Forget if you can't identify early systolic, mid systolic or late systolic or pan systolic or we call as a long systolic. Don't worry about that. At least it is systolic, diastolic or continuous murmur, that if you can identify. And if you can identify whether it is conducted radiation and whether it is which grade. If some of these things you can identify, well and good. Even if you can't identify crescendo, decrescendo, crescendo, decrescendo murmur, diamond shaped murmur, hollow murmur, character, quality, etc., pitch, don't worry. So I end my lecture here. I thank you for taking out time. I know your time is valuable and I appreciate you for spending some of time with me. If you like this particular lecture, please press button like and you can subscribe and you can share with your friends. I feel that this lecture will be very helpful to you in your oral exams. At your leisure time, you can go through in detail if you are interested some of the slides. So see you in next lecture.